Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2. Okay, we're going to get started. If I can have your attention, please. I'm hoping that everyone can hear me okay. We're having some issues with some interference on the intercom. It seems like this will suffice, but I will need obviously your attention. Okay? Today we have a special speaker here with us. This all started back in mid-November. I was sitting at home on a Sunday morning watching ESPN, having a cup of coffee, like a lot of us do on Sunday mornings. And if you watch ESPN very often, they'll have these stories or segments. And there was a segment that I found to be incredibly powerful. Certainly, as a parent, it certainly hit home with me. But this story was about a gentleman. His name was Michael Lutzenkirchen, who had a son. His son was Phillip. Phillip was an outstanding student. He is the all-time leading touchdown receiver for the University of Auburn, which, if you know anything about college football, is a national powerhouse. Not only was he a great football player, but he was a great person with many friends, a great student. You're going to learn a little bit about him today. Did a lot of things with his community. 2 years following attending the University of Auburn, he was killed in a drinking and driving accident. And since that time, his dad, Michael, in his honor, has been going around and speaking with people, speaking with colleges and high schools all around the country. So it is for sad reasons that he is here with us today, but I will say that after I saw this segment, I thought right away about our school and our students, and didn't think the odds of getting him up here were all that good, seeing as he lives in Atlanta. But after a few discussions, we were able to come up with something, and he did make the trip. We'll be speaking to not only Biddeford, you'll be speaking to some other schools as well. So right before I have him out here, he's asked me to show you this quick video.
Extremely good looking. People person. Great hair.
Oh, yeah! Damn, thanks to snap. We're getting the receiver. He's got Lutzenkirchen. Touchdown, Auburn! Touchdown, Auburn! Lutzenkirchen. He's going back across the field. 7-yard play.
Let's take a time out with me, Phillip Lutzenkirchen. I really don't know. Wow. Next question. Oh, hey Auburn, what's up? I'm Phillip Lutzenkirchen. You might know me as Auburn football team tight end.
Touchdown, Auburn!
Today I'm here to teach you about the Auburn United Student Rewards Program. At some point it's going to end for me, and I'd much rather be known for what I've done off the field and impacting other people's lives and how many touchdowns or how many catches I've had.
Okay, please welcome Mr. Michael Lutzenkirchen. Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay? First of all, I love that video. I couldn't watch that video the first 6 to 8 weeks after Phillip passed away. We lost him at age 23. 28 days back on June 28th of last year. So it's been 261 days since I lost my only son. And that's a big number, 261, but when you think about it in months, it's not a very big number. But I want to thank Dennis for reaching out to our website, letsc43.org. I never thought I'd be a dad that would have a foundation. I'd be going across the country to speak to kids. I had an opportunity to come up here and jumped at it. I've never been to Portland, Maine. I'm a guy that grew up in Chicago, that lives in Atlanta. And people think I'm crazy. I was in Mobile, Alabama on Monday and it was 90 degrees. I couldn't even get my hotel room up to 90 degrees last night. So, the last thing you saw on that video was a phrase, I know God's working, so I smile. And if anybody knows a gospel singer by the name of Kirk Franklin, that's a song he has called Smile. And that's very representative of who Phillip was. Someone got an echo? So that was very representative of who Phillip was. He had a strong faith for a kid who was 23 years old. He had unbelievable character. Just because he gave back to others less fortunate than him, never let the fame that he created If you've never been to Alabama, there are no professional sports. We're a little crazy down there as far as football goes. And when you come out of the womb in Alabama, they don't spank you to make sure you can breathe and cry. They spank you to see if you're going to say War Eagle or Roll Tide. So it's a little crazy down here. Might be like what you do with hockey or fishing up here. So Phillip was an Auburn player. You saw a picture of my family up there. I'm blessed. One of my daughters, Amy, is actually with me here today. She's my oldest daughter. She's 27. She's on our board. My youngest daughter, Abby, is 21 and plays soccer at the University of Alabama. So to live in Atlanta and have a kid that played at Auburn and a kid that played at Alabama, I consider you confused. But it's truly an honor to be here because I saw so many bright faces walk into this gym. I saw some kids that you can tell are athletic, some kids that are 4.0 students. I see white, I see black, boy, girl, just wonderful, healthy kids. And the whole reason that I'm going around the country and talking, and next week I'll be in Austin, Texas, and in 2 weeks I'll be in Northern California talking to Stanford University Athletics and all their athletes, and Cal Berkeley football, and a couple of high schools, is because there's so many things in this life that are temptations to us. And no matter where I go, everybody wants to give me a comment that said, Mike, it's so different than when you were young, and I'm an old guy, I'm 52. And at first I didn't think that was true. Temptation is all about making decisions. Having an option to do what's right or what's wrong, what's risky or what's not, what's cool or what's not, what's popular, or maybe what's peer pressure. But there are some differences now that I realize it. When I was your age, as a student here, there wasn't a thing called the internet. In fact, 2 weeks ago, I guess 2 months ago, I didn't realize that you quit following somebody on Facebook by just quitting. I learned you unfollow or you unsubscribe. And it's called tweeting instead of twitting. So I'm getting a little bit smarter with the younger generation. So there are some things that did challenge me when I was your age. But I want to challenge you today with a few things. And the first thing I want to challenge you on is community service. Because my son was phenomenal. He had all this fame come his way at Auburn. Started as a sophomore in 2010, tight end, on a team that won a national championship. And even if you're not a sports fan, you've probably heard of Cam Newton, who was his quarterback. He was a 2-year captain, which is very rare at a large Southeast Conference football program. He graduated from Auburn University in 3.5 years. And I think that's outstanding. That's my favorite number about Phillip. He had a plan and he had a purpose, and he went and followed through with it and had his degree. And that proved to be valuable because he didn't make it in the NFL, which was his big dream. He went to one prom. And I love to tell this story because I think it speaks to who Phillip is. And before I tell it, the title of my talk when I go around the country is called Phillip's Legacy. What legacy are you leaving? And everybody knows what a legacy is. And what's important in the word legacy is your brand. Because every one of us, every day, is putting our own personal brand out for the world to see. And some of you that are very involved in social media, more people are seeing it than you might even believe that are seeing it. But every day you walk into this school as a student, your brand's out there for people to see. Very rarely do we stand and our brand stands right in center court to do a basketball analogy. We're either doing things that push our brand forward or making decisions and pushing our brand backwards every day. So I want you to think about your brand. But I want you to think about one question while I talk for about 20 more minutes. And that question is, how many people feel better when they meet you? It's a pretty simple question. But every day when you put your head down on the pillow at night and you look back on how your day went, how many people feel better about themselves simply because you were in their presence? Because you said thank you. Or you sat in the front row and told a teacher, great class today, Mrs. Smith. Or you held the door open for somebody. Or you took the time to go sit at lunch with a buddy with your special needs classmates that you've never met before. But are a little different because they were born different, either physically or some of their mental capabilities. You just sat with them and had lunch. You didn't buy them lunch. You didn't have mom pack you a separate lunch. You just sat with them and introduced yourself. Said, hey, I'm Mike. What's your name? That's making a difference. That's paying it forward. That's what Phillip excelled at. That's what builds your brand. There's a girl by the name of Casey Carroll in our hometown of Marietta, Georgia. And if you met Casey, I think you'd probably fall in love with her. When Phillip was a senior in high school, he had never been to a prom yet, and he told Casey, I'm going to take you to prom. He loved Casey as a friend. And he, because he was a successful football player, was called out of town that day of prom to go receive an award. So he broke Casey's heart. Phillip graduated high school in May of 2009 and went down to Auburn University that summer to start getting ahead for football, workouts, and in classes. And he played in every game as a true freshman that year. Auburn went 8-5. He was a backup tight end. And then when the season was over, down where we're in the South, we're a little crazy, spring football came in, and I had an opportunity to go watch Phillip play in a scrimmage at Jordan-Hare Stadium. And that particular day, he got hit and landed on the crown of his helmet and received a concussion. So we went to the hospital, the doctors declared him and said, it's a concussion, you'll be fine. But take the rest of the weekend, go to your dorm room, keep the lights off, no noises, and you'll be good by Monday. As we walked out of the hospital, I saw Phillip reach behind him in the hallway and grab something off a gurney or off a rolling bed. And what he grabbed was a pillowcase. And we had a great relationship. He said, Dad, we got to get going. We got to get back home to Marietta, which is 2 hours away from Auburn. And I said, Phil, you got to go back to your dorm room. You heard what the doctor said. You got to sleep this thing off and just be quiet and dark for a couple of days. Well, what he took was a pillowcase. And he just said, Dad, you drive. So I drove him back home. It was last year's prom. And he put that pillowcase over his head and slept the whole way home. And he took Casey to prom that night. As a freshman in college, he went back to take Casey, who was now a senior, to prom. And what's awesome about Casey, if you ever met her, and you came to Marietta, Georgia right now, she works at a Publix grocery store. That's our big chain down there. And Casey bags groceries. Casey has Down syndrome. Phillip made a commitment to take a girl that he met, who made him laugh, because she's just infectious. And he fell through on his commitment, but he went back as a freshman in college. A kid that's already played on national television, already developing a fan base, and he took Casey to prom. That makes a dad proud. There's another story of Phillip, a young girl about community service. Her name is Bailey Moody. And you can see Bailey on our website. She was on that video. Bailey was 10 years old. Phillip didn't know her, found out that he was her favorite player. Now he's a junior in college. We met Bailey, who's 10 years old. She lives not too far from us in Atlanta. Phillip said, Dad, she's sick, I need to meet her. So instead of going to spring break, he came home first, which is 2 hours out of his way before he go down to Panama City, Florida, to spring break. In college, spring break's a pretty big deal. You've got a big spring break coming up here. And I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. But we met Bailey and her parents. And to shorten the story a little bit, we met her at a Starbucks. And the first thing you noticed was she had an Auburn ball cap on and an Auburn soccer t-shirt. Her mom played soccer at Auburn, and that's how Phillip found out about Bailey. But the next thing you noticed about Bailey was, besides the big smile because she was getting to meet Phillip, she was bald. She had come home from practice a couple months earlier and complained to her parents that I've got this pain in my right leg. And his parents, who played college soccer and his father played baseball at Citadel, they simply looked at her and said, Bailey, there's no bruise there, just suck it up. So for 2 more days she went to school and went to practice. The net of it is, they finally went to the doctor, and she had a cancerous tumor above her right knee. And the solution was fairly simple in the eyes of the doctor. We need to amputate your leg or remove your leg from above the knee. And we're going to get you a prosthetic leg that will look as closely as possible to your left leg. And as she grew older, Bailey, they would swap it out with a new leg. When you wore pants, people wouldn't even know it. But she couldn't play basketball or volleyball anymore, her love. Think about that when you're 10 years old. If for some reason you didn't choose it, you got sick and something, your favorite thing was taken away. So Phil just sat with Bailey. And I sat with her parents that day. The next option was a little bit similar, but very drastically different. They still had to remove her leg, but this time they said, Bailey, We can take your right foot, which is a hinge, just like your knee, and we can surgically place that where your right knee was. Yep, you'll have a foot right there. And we'll put a special prosthetic, artificial leg below that, but you'll be able to play sports, you'll be able to run. Think about that decision. We already have enough peer pressure. What clothes do I wear? How do I wear my hair? What are people going to think? And now, I would have a foot permanently where my knee was. And Phillip just sat with it. Phillip passed away a year and a half later, this past June, on June 29th. And I went for a run the next morning. And God placed on my heart just to think about words and short phrases of who Phillip was. You saw the video. You saw him in a Woody costume at a Halloween party the sophomore year they won a national championship. He went to a team event dressed as Woody from Toy Story. I don't know where you find a 6'4", 250-pound Woody costume, but he did. Because he was goofy. He was humble. He was fun. He smiled. He was a teammate. He had your back. He was God-fearing. He had a good soul. All these words and phrases. And I went to the same Starbucks that we had originally met Bailey. I wrote them down. And I only met Patrick and his wife that day we met Bailey, back when Phil was a junior. And then 6 weeks after Phillip passed away. So that's about a 2-year period, 2-year difference. And Patrick called me. And he said, Mike, with tears in his eyes, and I started to cry. Your son gave to my daughter when she was 10, who's now 13, when he was 20 or 19. He went out of his way to come see her during the darkest time of our life as a family and the decision we had to make. And he just sat with her. And what he shared with her that day was, I can't make this decision for you. I'm not even smart enough to give you guidance, but I can tell you, trust in God. That's simply how he put it with her. It's strong faith for such a young 23-year-old. But then Patrick got me excited because there was a word that described your son, he said. And I thought I had it down because I've already written the words down. I'm a bit of a nerd, so I went and put it in an Excel spreadsheet so I could sort the words. And I'm waiting for him to give me that word. And the word was available. And I looked at my list. I really didn't have to look at it because I knew I didn't have that word. I didn't think of that word as my son. But when you think about what's your legacy, and where's your brand at? And do you make people feel better by being in their presence? The word available is awful powerful. Phillip simply was available to this little girl. And now she's 13. She plays on an all-boys intramural basketball team on the hardwood, running up and down. She plays adaptive wheelchair basketball. And she speaks nationally. Her name's Bailey Moody. And Phil just befriended her because he had the time. Didn't cost him any money. Didn't bring her anything. Just met with her. And they struck up a relationship. So I want you to ask yourself, are you available? I know everybody's available to their friends and their family. If you play football, your teammates, or if you're in band, your bandmates, or if you're in a Spanish club, your Spanish club members. I watched a lot of people walk in here today, and it's always fun to watch what groups go sit where. What guy's going to have the strength to go up and sit next to the prettiest girl you might not know? Are you available? That may be Phillip's greatest trait. He was available. As Dennis said, he led the team in touchdowns. 14 for a tight end. It's a career record at Auburn. Scored the game-winning touchdown against Alabama in 2010 Iron Bowl. That's the biggest rivalry in college football. If you have a bucket list and you're a sports fan, you need to try to be in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, or in Auburn, Alabama, the Saturday of Thanksgiving to experience that phenomenon called the Iron Bowl. But like Phillip and like you, there's temptation. And I want to get pretty personal about what I know about June 28th and June 29th. But usually I ask a lot of questions when I give challenges to everybody, so I'm going to ask one question. Who does not have a mobile phone? It's okay to put your hand up. You don't need to be embarrassed. I wish I didn't have one. Very few hands go up when I ask that question. And here's another challenge for you.
Our society, in particular, you young kids, have become so wired in this wired world. We're always constantly wired, checking social media. What's on Facebook? What's on Twitter? What's going on the internet? Those of you who have phones, how many of you, before you close the lights off at night and close your eyes for the last time, put your phone right next to you on a nightstand? We're this wired community. That's all we do. And I'm getting smarter. I know why you do it as high schoolers. Because you want to wake up fresh that next morning and wonder what went on in France last night. Or who's going to wear what to prom. We're so wired. So wired scares me, especially for you teenagers that now get to drive a car. And the temptations of being wired at a stoplight or a stop sign, or boy, there's no car right in front of me or no behind me, I can check to see who just texted me. Or the email I just received. My favorite word, one of them is unplug. Unplug. Unplug yourself. Please, as teenage drivers. I'm 35 years of driving experience. I still occasionally fail when I don't see somebody in front of me and check my phone. And I found myself starting to swerve a little bit. I'm guilty. I'm trying to be better at being unplugged when I drive. I really beg you kids that are starting to drive, because nobody in here as a high school student has more than 3 years driving experience. I have 10 times more, and I shouldn't be doing it. I don't want you to fall into an accident because you're texting and driving. You're checking what's going on. Unplug. You have to unplug. That's a temptation as a father that scares me for high school kids. I've been told you've got spring break coming up here, the 3rd week of April. Somebody told me what you do up here on spring break is to stay inside, to be warm. Now my house is hot, so everybody goes to Panama City. And we created a culture that spring break is the time that maybe mom and dad might not be with us. And traditionally across the United States at your age, statistically, 22% of you high schoolers have already determined that alcohol is going to be something I'm going to get involved with. You think about that. Not juniors and seniors, but 9th grade through 12th grade. If there's 750 kids here, do the math, right? That's 140 to 150 kids have already decided, I'm going to drink. I challenge you individually, if you made that choice, don't do it. 21 is not an arbitrary age that the government chose by taking a dart toward the wall and say, hey, let's make 21 the driving limit. They do it because of all the research that's been done on the maturity of the body, and especially the brain, and your ability to handle alcohol. Yet 22% decide it's time to do that. So my challenge to you individually is to slow down. Take a step back. Say, you know what? I'm going to wait till 21. Not to drink, but to determine, is alcohol going to play a role in my life? But I also want to challenge you as a friend who's not drinking. Because it's okay to be uncool by being cool and saying, I'm not going to do that. I'm not judging you. You're my best friend, but I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to be with you if you're drinking. Phillip was 23 years old. 6'4", 255 pounds. Great looking, strapping kid. Had built fame for himself down in the southeast and became a celebrity. 39,000 plus Twitter followers. As a 2-year captain, he represented Auburn for 2.5 years on the media. Had Vern Lundquist, loved saying the last name Lutzenkirchen, when he played on CBS. 2 plays made top 10. In his career, one in high school and in college. That was an ESPN top 10 play of the day. Tom Rinaldi, who does the game day features for ESPN, reached out to Auburn to do a memorial video, or a video for college game day about Phillip and the foundation. He had missed out making it to the NFL because of injuries and got cut by the St. Louis Rams. But he graduated those 3.5 years and went on to Montgomery, Alabama to work in a wealth management career. And Phillip, like all of us, on June 28th, which was a Saturday, I think he woke that day and prepared. We prepare so much as a society. You've got prom coming up. I'm an old guy. I've gone to prom. I've had girls go to prom. We prepare. You girls, you've already prepared. You know when that day is. You've already gone out and made the arrangements of where you're going to get your nails done and your hair done, the dress you're going to wear, the guy you're going to go to prom with. You're preparing. You're hoping that your date, as a male, does a little bit more than smell himself and say, yeah, I can get by with wearing this shirt at prom. He's prepared. He's got the talks. He's borrowing mom and dad's car. He's going to vacuum it out. We're all preparing. But the problem is, for 22% of you, you've already prepared where you're going to get beer that night. Or something of more harder liquor. You're preparing. Phillip and his friends on June 28th prepared to go to a farm. Yep, no. I'm glad I catch it early, boss, if I said something wrong. Phillip and his friends on June 28th. I know my son. He's graduated. He's got a fan base. Everywhere he went in the Southeast, people wanted his autograph. I knew he prepared that day to go to a farm with friends in LaGrange, Georgia, which is a rural area, very much like around here. You don't have to go too far. You're on country roads with no shoulders, trees close to the road utility pole. There aren't lights illuminating the road. I know what probably went through Philip's mind. I'm going to push trucks in the mud that day on a farm. Down south they call that muddy. I'm going to ride horses. So I got to bring spare clothes. I got to bring my toiletry kit, because I'm going to shower there and spend the night. I'm probably bringing a pillow. I'm going to stop and I'm going to buy beer. I'm 23 years old. That's what I do. I can drink some beer. He prepared. And then the day started. And he and a bunch of buddies, guys and girls, they went out in the field and they rode the horses. The last picture I have of Phillip was pure Phillip. He sent a picture of himself with his head, with a cap on backwards next to a horse, as if he was going to kiss it. He was being Phillip. He was being goofy, fun-loving. But then he started drinking beer because it was hot. It was 95 degrees. I wasn't there. This is the story, the way I was told. And they went in, they started to grill some steaks and some burgers. And they started to drink some more. I've got dads that say, Mike, all they did that day was get a keg. I didn't see any red Solo cups. And a few pictures that were shared with me. And they continued to drink. And in the state of Georgia, your blood alcohol content level, or your BAC, if you get to 0.08, you're considered legally intoxicated or drunk. That's pretty consistent BAC, I think, across the country. You get there a heck of a lot faster at age 14, 16, 18 than you do a kid that's 23 and is 6'4", 250. Another reason to slow down and stop if you're already drinking. Phillip, because he was a celebrity, 6 months after he passed away, ESPN, who promoted Phillip for the wonderful things he did on and off the field, promoted what Phillip's BAC when it became publicly available. 0.08, you're legally intoxicated. Phillip's was 0.32 plus. So my son that day abused alcohol, and he wasn't known to do that. I always wonder why I get a few smiles or giggles when I talk about this. And the only thing I can tell you is, if you think it's funny, put your father in my shoes. And all of a sudden it's not so humorous. Phillip lost control that day. Whatever preparation he did went out the way because of alcohol. When we prepare and we're aware. And when you went to the level Phillip did and his friends that day, it doesn't matter how much preparation you do or prepare, you no longer can be aware because alcohol took over. And that's the first of 4 key points of June 28th. I need you to take it to your heart. You don't know me. I didn't even know my son before I was here. But this is a real story. And you can look it up on the web. Because there's thousands of articles about Phillip. Before he got injured, college, before he passed away, and since. So then what the boys did that I think I need you to take to your heart and learn from, one of his buddies decided at midnight, I gotta go get a dip. I gotta have a chew. That's what guys do in the South. So they decided 4 of them to pile into a 2006 Chevy Tahoe, which is one of the heaviest vehicles you can drive. And at 2 in the morning, decided it was time to go get a can of dip. At 2 in the morning. Please believe me when I tell you, with your limited driving experience, there is nothing good that happens on the roads in Portland, in Biddeford, in Boston, in Atlanta, anywhere when you're driving after midnight. Nothing. There's nowhere you have to go. That's of importance to do it after midnight. So I'm challenging you individually as drivers, don't do it. But more importantly, I'm challenging you as friends. There's a lot of, you walked in here, very rarely did I see anybody walk in here by themselves. You walked in at least as a pair, or in a group. You went and sat with a group. Might be athletes, might be band members, but you're with a group. So you're teammates to one another. As a teammate, you've got to look out for your friends saying, we're not going out after midnight. We don't need to do it. Even if you think it's legit. And Taco Bell's open 24/7. We're just going to do some tacos at 1 o'clock if we're hungry. Or McDonald's. I challenge you, if you think you need to go out after midnight, call your favorite coach. Or your favorite teacher. Or one of the parents, go upstairs and wake them up. Whatever house you're sleeping at, and have them take it. And I know that won't happen because it's not cool. And for 22% of you, I know it won't happen. There's no way you want coach or mom and dad to know, we're going to find more beer. Or whatever you're going to find, you shouldn't be drinking. Phillip and his friends went out at 2 in the morning after drinking. For something as foolish as to get a dip. So now, the amount of alcohol and abuse of alcohol and going out at crazy hours, 1 plus 1, equal to solid 2. This was a rural area with a winding road that came to a T intersection. And at the T there was a stop sign. You either go right or you go left. At the back of the road was a small little ravine. Nothing real deep. It's a rural road, no lights. It's 2:30 in the morning. The speed limit is 70, the speed limit is 55. The black box that records data in your vehicle, which activates when you brake. It gives a recording that goes 5, 4, all the way down to 0. Said 78 at impact. They were driving 78 miles an hour in an area they weren't familiar with, on a dark winding road, in a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. You've got to slow down. Us guys, we're macho. How fast can I get the pickup truck that mom and dad gave me? Or mom's SUV, or dad's car. You've got to slow down. And more importantly, as a friend in that vehicle, you've got to say, slow down, John, or Kate, or let me out. Too much alcohol, crazy hours of speeding. There was an 8-page accident report that I had to read. The last page is dedicated to the path that the vehicle took. And it started out by coming down this road and showing where it went right through the stop sign and hit a small reed, the back end flipped over the front end. And then it rolled multiple times, 150 feet. All you think about that distance. It's like pushing that vehicle from that baseline down 84 feet and over halfway back. Imagine that. 3 key numbers I'd like you to remember. The number 1, 25%, and 100%. 4 kids were in the vehicle. 25% of the 4 kids that decided to wear a seatbelt walked away from this accident with a concussion. On the accident report, there's a stick drawing, like we've all done when we were kids. Stick body, circular head, stick arm, stick legs, laying 15 feet from the vehicle. And above that stick figure was my son's name, Phillip Lutzenkirchen. And below it, the acronym or the phrase DOA, for dead on arrival. Phillip was ejected from his vehicle. 25% of the kids that decided to get in the vehicle and at least go from his right shoulder to his left hip and hear a click, took all 2 seconds of his life, walked away with a concussion. 100% of the 4 kids that decided to wear a seatbelt walked away with a concussion. Seatbelts save lives. 43% of all high school kids that are driving don't wear seatbelts, even though it's been a law and really focused on as a country over the last 5 to 10 years. 43%. Please take it to your heart that that 2-second habit from either your right shoulder to your left hip or your left shoulder to your right hip will save your life. The combination of things. I'll go back again. Whether you're white or black, male or female, athlete, non-athlete, 4.0 student, 2.0 student, when you combine temptations and you choose the wrong action, there is no discrimination. You put yourself in jeopardy. Phillip had the world going. A great-looking kid, a college degree, fame, an opportunity to work with the SEC network, a job, autograph seekers, lived his life right. But he fell down that last day of temptations that you all are going to face at spring break, or prom, or just a weekend. You've got to look out for one another. You've got to be cool enough to say, I'm not going to let you do that. Because you know what? Had Phillip had a friend that day, or Phillip had a friend that had done that for those kids, they might have got some grief that night. I'm okay, I haven't drank too much. Quit nagging me. I'm good. I think they would rather have woken up the next morning with a friend mad at them, but alive. So I'll close with this. If you can match my son's character and his faith and belief and his willingness to give to others and do selfless acts for others, just out of the goodness of your heart, I don't know anybody here, but I'm confident you'll be a better person. He did that for 23 years and 28 days. And I make this promise, though. If you avoid the things that Phillip didn't avoid that last day, you're going to be a better person for a long life, a healthy life. And you've got wonderful things ahead of you. Thank you for letting me share part of your day today. And in closing, I'd like to challenge kids to write to me. My email address is Lutzie, LUTZIE43 @gmail.com. The first time I did this was in Chicago, Illinois, a school of 3,500 kids and 750 student athletes. I did this on a Wednesday back in November. That Monday morning I woke up and I had a note from a girl named Elizabeth. She wrote me. She said, I didn't know who you were. I didn't know who your son was, but I've looked him up. And I want to share with you, Mr. Mike, she called me. This is the first weekend in 18 months I haven't had alcohol. So I'm doing the math. She's been drinking since her sophomore year in high school. We, at your age, have a tendency to think we're getting to the point where we know it all. Or you tune mom and dad's voice out. I know, Mom, I'll make my bed. I know, Dad, I'll put gas in the car every once in a while. Mom and Dad are nagging. Your coaches, your teachers, Yeah, I know I'm not working hard enough, but yes, I ran as hard as I could. Yes, I put the best effort into my paper. You tune out your parents and your teachers and coaches. I'm a real voice. I'm unique. Whether it's tonight or tomorrow, or a week or a month, or a year from now, there's something in your heart you want to share, you've got my email address. It's just between you and me. Thank you very much for listening. God bless you.